Welcome back to Counterpoint, Season 3.
Season 3. We are back, baby. Yes. Post-COVID. Whole new us.
I
like your song better.
Fantastic point of us. This is what the whole season's going to be. I hope not. Okay, great. Deke, it's so good to see you. I've of course seen you in the last 3 years. Of course, we've chatted, but never in front of other people and never recorded. So, this is we're back to this thing again.
It is, yes.
How have you been? What have you been up to? What's new with you?
Unfortunately, you probably know about all the streaming wars being over, and so all the television and movie things have gone quiet. I have a couple irons in the fire, but really, it's been live events, which a cappella is always better live. So, different things all around the world and across the United States of America, working with students and professionals and whatever. It's just better when you get in the same room with people. That's the best feeling.
What's been your favorite road thing in the last few years?
Ooh, that is tough to say. It was really great to go back to Shanghai and Hong Kong earlier this year. Festival of Voices in Australia is always a highlight, and going down to New Zealand as well. But Europe, Italy, Sole Voce Festival, it's just so nice in Italy. I love it there. Yeah. Brought the family this year. It was the first place I traveled outside North America when I was a kid, and I just I have a piece of my heart there. So yeah,
love that.
How about you? Talk to me, Mr. Chair of the ACDA Contemporary A Cappella category, something I spent 30 years trying to make happen. And they were like, it'll never happen. Stop bothering us. And then Rob Dietz walks along and like, please have a seat at the table.
You set it up for me perfectly. Yeah, I've gotten way back into the choral world in the last few years. Doing it's a mouthful. I'm the National R&R Chair for Contemporary A Cappella. We need to shorten that a little bit. I'll figure out some kind of acronym for that maybe at some point. But yeah, no, I've been doing that and just getting a lot more into the choral world. I wasn't satisfied with just being an a cappella nerd. Now I needed to get back to my roots as a choral nerd as well. So very involved with ACDA and still arranging. In the spirit of moving into the choral space, I used to direct Legacy, which was the group out here in Los Angeles that was a contemporary a cappella group, and I've now turned that into a choir that's an offshoot of A Cappella Academy. Still doing that. Great. A Cappella Academy continues to expand. Things are fun, doing the a cappella education thing, which is great. And we
got Camp A Cappella coming up next week.
That's right. So when do you go? Are you going?
In just a few days. It'll be great. And Mr. Charlie Arthur, who's in this Zoom as well, will be there as well, overseeing performances and the stage and the Aka Olympics, which is something I think we'll have more of an online presence for this year. Ooh. Always fun to see kids try to sing the highest or loudest note. I
was going to try to guess what the Aka Olympics is.
It's exactly what you think it is. 100%. Nothing like middle schoolers trying to screech louder than each other.
Exactly. Should we just talk a little bit about why we're back? Why Counterpoint has returned?
Yes. Rob, why are we doing this? I don't know.
I'm
old now. I don't remember.
I personally really want to know the answer to this question.
Of course, we need to introduce Stephanie. Of course,
Stephanie.
Yes, of course
we do. Yes,
we skipped right over that. Well, in the spirit of why is Counterpoint back, please welcome our producer, my wife, Stephanie Dietz. There she is.
Thank you so much.
Clap.
Honored.
She keeps us on topic. When we stray from the topic.
Indeed.
But yeah, why are we back? I think we were, Counterpoint is always sort of comes out of your and my conversations, Deke. And I think this one was, originally Counterpoint was sort of, how do we give people access to information? It was sort of post Pitch Perfect sing off world. There's all these new people in a cappella. Like, how do we create sort of a bank of information for these folks that are coming in? That was season 1. And then season 2 was, COVID. We don't really have anything going on. Let's figure out what to do and sort of how to help people do this in whatever way we could during COVID. So we did those episodes on long distance and effects. And we, instead of in-person conversations, we kind of pivoted to more interviews with people that we strung together, which was really fun. And this time, you and I were texting now post on the other side of COVID a little bit more and thinking like, oh no, the COVID has really taken things solidly back a step in a lot of aspects of acapella. So how do we kind of rebuild a little bit more? How do we give people access to information in this sort of new age of post-COVID where, there's a little bit less money, there's a little bit less opportunity, there's a lot more challenges, but there's still so many people that are doing acapella and doing it wonderfully and have some wonderful things to say. And I think, I don't know if we ever really, we sort of maybe talked about this a little bit, but I think like one of the things that I was thinking about with this format was the things that always energize me the most are like when you go to a festival and you wind up at a table and you're just talking to people about acapella. And I was sort of thinking, I think we were sort of thinking like, is there a way that we could create that more often, that you don't necessarily just have to like go to a festival to do it, but that you could actually like kind of have a round table discussion with some fun people about acapella. So that's how we wound up with this new format where we're going to be bringing in different people to talk on some panels on a variety of topics.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Oh, and for
people,
it's my dog, Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
Dog. For people who don't know the history of it, really, acapella has been a very decentralized community until the early days of the Usenet, the early days of the internet when individuals were getting involved. And this is when I was like right out of college, the alt music acapella and then the rec music acapella chat groups were places where people could connect. And then, of course, I started the Contemporary Acapella Society of America to bring people together. And AOL, for a time being, had an acapella group. And then there was the Recorded Acapella Review Board, the RARB Forum, which was a real place that people would convene. And then Acapella Now, which has almost 10,000 people who are following it. And yet it doesn't have that sense of water cooler discussion. It doesn't have that sense of community around it. And there aren't the same conversations going on in these kind of public spaces that the same way they are backstage at an event or when you bump into friends and you're, after an acapella concert or something like that. And that's the vibe we want to bring because we really want to help everybody who's in the community right now who's trying to make it happen. We want to make it easier for you. Young people who aspire to make a career out of this, we want to make that happen for you. And that's also why we decided to start with this particular topic, making a career of acapella, right?
How do I actually make money doing this thing?
How do I do this? Put your money where your mouth is, because a lot of people love this and a lot of people want to keep doing it. But if the money isn't there, you're not going to be able to. So I want to plant a vision in people's heads because people asked me in the early days, right after I graduated college, I've never had any other job. I only have ever done a cappella, and especially pre-pitch perfect when people were like, what is a cappella? They would always ask me like, how are you making this happen? And the best analogy I could come up with are those little water skeeter bugs. There's like really like super thin legged things and they kind of walk on water. They're able to support themselves by never putting too much weight on any one limb. And that's going to be a real thesis and part of the reason why we brought these four incredibly talented young individuals together, because they all are cross-trained. They're doing multiple things. There are some people who just do one thing. I'm in pentatonics. I'm in straight no chaser. I tour and then I go home and take care of my kid. But for most people who are thinking, I want to make a career of a cappella, how do I do that? You don't necessarily start with a globally known a cappella group. You have to work your way up. And there are definitely people in this discussion who will be doing that in the future, no doubt. But it's getting there. That's a big part of it. So let's talk about getting there, Rob.
And before we get there, I just want to point that it took about less than 10 minutes for you to compare acapella to a bug. So that's, we'll run with that.
That's, keep the list going.
That's the current.
And as we introduce our four incredible interviewees on our talk show today, I want you to also know that each of these four people have had that bug mailed to their houses, and it's sitting outside their door as we speak, and they will have to live eat that bug on this recording.
That's a very different podcast. We talked about that. That's a different podcast.
Fear factor.
Element of
I know. That's Joe Rogan.
We're trying to use a little bit of the Joe Rogan flavor here, but that's too much. We're gonna back it down.
Checks, but that's about it.
Okay, but the bugs are there. So whether or not you choose to eat them.
Speaking of being bitten by the acapella bug, we have four panelists with us today who are bitten by it.
What a segue! Oh my
There's a segue. I'm just going to give a very quick intro for everybody, and then we're going to kick it over to them to tell you a little bit more about who they are and what they do, but in the order that they sent me their emails. We have Tehillah Alphonso.
I was first?
Yeah,
That's
you were
great.
first. You were first
that
to respond.
Happens.
Yeah. 10:51 p.m. Working late. Tehillah Alphonso, Grammy-nominated arranger. Ooh, let me say it so everyone can hear me. Grammy-nominated arranger. Grammy-nominated arranger. Tehillah Alphonso, session singer and teacher. Her film score credits include Wicked, The Color Purple, and Encanto. She's been on TV, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, All-American, The Rookie. She sings backgrounds for everybody. She's an adjunct professor of popular voice at USC, and she's the music director of the two-time ICHSA finalist Wolfpack Cappella. That's Tehillah. Yay. Woohoo! We're all applauding silently on Zoom.
Yes.
Angela Ugolini, Boston-based vocal music producer and performer. She's the owner of Aurum Productions. Did I say that right? Aurum Productions.
Yeah. Aurum, yeah.
Aurum, which means like
Aurum.
gold. It's gold, right?
Gold.
Aurum.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Since 2012, her production and mixing work has been nominated for more than 400 contemporary a cappella recording awards, which is pretty amazing.
Crazy.
And she's a singer in the professional a cappella group Musae, which is one of the groups that has survived COVID, which is fantastic. And has been, you guys have been long distance pretty much for your whole existence, right?
Yeah, since formation, we've never all lived in the same city. Like sometimes it was like 3 people would live in the Northeast and that was nice. But like now it's like one of our members lives in Germany. So like now we're like really far from each other. So yeah.
Make it harder on yourself. Why not?
Yeah.
We have Chrissy Aloisio. Aloisio, yes, I got it.
Yeah,
all right.
great job. Yep.
That was the first question I think I asked you when we met in person. I was like, how do you say your last name? Aloisio. Chrissy Aloisio, based in New York City, performer, music director, teacher, and choreographer. She's the co-music director and choreographer for Backtrack Vocals.
Amazing
one
group.
of the few consistently touring a cappella groups right now, which is great. She's a voice instructor at the Tim Welch Vocal Studio and the CMA Voice Studio. She's an a cappella and musical theater instructor at Gateway to the Arts, and she's a University of Delaware alum in music education. And last, but certainly not least on our panel, Layne Stein of VoicePlay. Layne is an arranger, a writer, creator, and performer. He's a founder of VoicePlay and a founder of PattyCake Productions.
Yes. And as we were saying before, I've known Layne for some 25 years now. And let's see, we made a television show together and 2 big national tours. And let me tell you, Layne, because I know it was always a topic of discussion. Yes, you guys should have closed the show, but I couldn't put you in the last spot because I absolutely needed to put you in the middle because the other groups were more similar. And you guys always in that right before the last group, like that spot where like the audience starts to like zone out because they've had 2 glasses of wine. You brought every audience to their feet, multiple standing ovations. So he's got a lot of behind the scenes knowledge, but he's also a powerhouse on stage.
I appreciate you turning that sore subject into spinning it positively. That's what you do best.
Yeah, well, you got to be good at something, I guess.
He takes the bug and he coats it in chocolate.
There you go.
This is our fantastic panel. We're so excited to have you all here. We're going to go around. We've been talking a lot now. Let's go around, let everybody introduce yourselves, talk a little bit more about your background and what your career is in a cappella and vocal music. And I want to kick it off to, what did I say? Angela. Let's go.
And actually, I have a thought about this just to help people get a better sense of it. Could you do kind of percentages, maybe of time or money or whatever? Like I'm about 75% in the studio, 25% or whatever it is, so that people can get a better picture of how this math really works. Okay, take it away,
Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela. I'm supposed to lean in a little bit to talk on my specific section. No, I like you said, I own my own production company. I would say that 90% of what I do in a cappella for my career is recording, editing, and mixing a cappella groups. I'm also in a professional a cappella group. We tour very sporadically throughout the year. Like sometimes it'll just be like a 2-week tour or just a weekend, or we'll do an a cappella festival or something like that. But I would say the majority of what I do is post-production and like going in and recording with a cappella groups. I also do a little bit of like coaching. I was a director of my collegiate group back in Florida. I went to Florida State University and I was the director of the acapellas. And so I pulled that in and I do master classes and things like that. But I would say 90% of what I do is like recording and
cool. Quick question around that. So for people who aren't as familiar with recording, there are a number of different stages to the recording process. Setting aside pre-production, what percentage of your time do you think you're really spending like actually recording the group? And then what percentage like kind of doing the editing and cleaning things up? And then what percentage are you like mixing and mastering?
Yeah. So normally, like I'll just like per song, I guess. It's somewhere like 7, 8 hours a song we spend recording an a cappella group.
Hmm.
Somewhere between 6 and 8 editing that same recorded song, and then
Mm.
probably about 4 to 6 hours doing the mixing and the revisions, and then the mastering happens afterwards. I don't do mastering, but that's
Okay.
like the last step of the process, and that's probably about an hour to 2 hours, depending on how long your total project is.
Mm. Nice.
Cool.
Excellent.
Let's take it over to Chrissy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chrissy. I kind of got into the a cappella world in college when I was in UD Vocal Point, and that's where I got bitten by that a cappella bug. And now I am pretty much doing a cappella full time. I would say that's about 85 to 90% of my work. And then I also teach privately. I teach private voice. And so I have about 20 students a week. And then I also teach at a performing arts studio. I teach an a cappella class as well as some musical theater classes. And I'm in a wedding band as well. So yeah, I think the rest of that stuff kind of encompasses maybe like 15 to 20%. And then the rest is a cappella full time with Backtrack vocals. And we tour very consistently. And we travel a lot, and we do a lot of education in schools, and
That's
we love
great.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for percentages again, because I'm trying to chop it up for people and whatever. I
Yeah.
know there are some people who are full time in Backtrack, right? You're in the group and you're
Yes.
doing all that, but also you're supplementing with this other stuff, which is totally what I
Correct.
did in the house checks. That's really smart. For Backtrack right now, as a like young, very successful full time touring group, because your group is a full time. You're adding on to it, but it is full time. What
Yes.
percentage of your income is coming from actually performing, and then what other things, like is there money from videos coming in, or do you have any merchandise stuff, or special events and corporate gigs? Like how does that break
Yeah.
down?
Yeah, I would say our bread and butter is schools.
Okay.
We have a lot of connections with schools. We've developed them over the years. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't bring in that much anymore as it used to, but that's where we did get our start. It's mainly schools and performing arts centers, the tours that we do. We also recently were on NBC and HBO, and the TV gigs are also where it's at. So,
Oh, yeah. And when
so
you say
yeah, I would
schools,
say-
you're speaking, it's mostly kind of high schools, but then maybe some middle schools woven in, not so much colleges. Is that
Actually,
really how it works now? Or
yeah, not as much colleges, but definitely a lot of elementary. We do a lot of assemblies at elementary schools, middle schools, high school choral programs. We go in and we like clinic or workshop with the choirs. And for elementary, it's mainly assemblies. Sometimes they do like residencies where they'll bring us in for like a whole week, and we do a little concert at the end. We just did that with a fourth grade in Pennsylvania. So
Amazing.
But yeah, that's definitely the bread and butter.
That's smart. That's great. Well done.
Nice.
Thanks.
Let's kick it to Layne.
Sure. I've been doing this a really long time, so I don't want to start that far back, but I sing, I beatbox, I'll arrange music, produce videos, all of these different things for VoicePlay. And then additionally, in addition to that, I write music and create other cinematic videos for PattyCake Productions. So as far as what you'll see me doing like day to day, kind of like what I just said, very similar to you guys. Some of those things get sent out to get done. Like I used to mix everything. We used to do every single step by ourselves. So like create the concept, arrange the music, get the parts recorded, do a rough mix, put a mix together, or, all the steps in between that to editing it, tuning it, timing it, and then creating a music video for it, putting a shoot together, figuring out all the pieces that kind of go with that. So there's a lot in my day-to-day with both of the companies that I work at. And I would say right now I'm split 50-50, but like during different months, it's just very different. Sometimes we're doing a brand deal with a company with VoicePlay, and then more time gets spent on that side of things. And other times the exact opposite happens. And luckily I'm in business with other business minded people that know how to, like, if I need to like take a little breathing room from this one and shuffle over to this, they've got it. And the same happens the other way.
That's great. Now, my understanding is VoicePlay, after so many years of touring, took a break from touring, has been focusing more on videos now. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I didn't want to give us away yet because I know we're about to talk about that. But after COVID, things changed drastically for us because we were touring almost that's how we made our money. We toured and we were making videos for YouTube, but it wasn't really as much. And then when COVID hit, it changed everything. And obviously we didn't tour and we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And then at that moment, we were like, well, we're going to do the thing that we've been saying we wanted to do forever, but couldn't because we weren't making money at it. So we were like, well, let's put all of our efforts into making videos. And we did. And luckily we did. And I'm so grateful for that moment in time in our careers because it really changed everything. And now we're able to, you know, for older men like us, we like to stay home and not tour that much because it's a grind being out on the road and, you know, eating road food and staying in
acapella men of
crappy
a certain
hotels
age.
and yes,
I feel that. So really right now the income is largely from like YouTube residuals as well as like corporate gigs where you're doing, like you said, brands and videos and things like that for them, or doing specialized video production for other people?
Yeah, more the latter, I would say. We haven't even done a corporate like live gig. I don't even know how long it's been at this point. Maybe we did one a year or two ago.
Okay.
But everything that we're doing right now is online, even if it's for a client. So client XYZ comes to us and said, hey, can you make us a video that promotes our game or our product? And we'll make that video for them.
Yep.
So
and the CEO wrote some really bad golf-themed lyrics to a Beach Boys song, and you have to, I've done so many of those.
That's more of an Orlando theme park thing that happens. We try not to get ourselves into that, but yeah, that has happened before.
I hear you. Awesome.
I think it's very funny just listening to the idea of the elders in the acapella community, just because this sort of art form is so young. Our elders are like 45, like.
I'm 57.
You're you know,
I'm older.
You've been here since the very beginning.
Yes,
you know, you were the
now,
first person at the party.
You mind your P's and Q's.
Oh gosh, I'm going to tangent for like half a second and just give you guys a funny little story.
Please.
So we're on stage, and this is probably over 10 years ago at this point in time, and some company hired us. I don't even know. It was like a farmer's company, and they were like, "We want you guys to sing a song about blueberries." And it was probably like I Feel Good or something like that. A song you guys have all heard before. And one of our performers was really nervous and he had forgotten the words. And it was intricate. And all of a sudden he just starts riffing and he goes, and you know what has the most antioxidants of any fruit ever? Blueberry. And we were all on stage, mortified, and couldn't believe that this had actually happened. So that's some of the shenanigans that goes on stage when you do corporate events like that.
And that's how you make a living in acapella.
There it is. Tune in next week. Yeah, 100%.
Blueberries. All right, let's kick it over to Tehillah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Tehillah. Can you hear me okay? Sorry. Yes, making sure. Awesome. I'm Tehillah. Let's see. My acapella journey, I think I might be the youngest person here. So it didn't start that long ago, but my acapella journey started when I was in high school, going to Acapella Academy, where Rob was my teacher. Where I went as a student for 3 years, then went to USC to study popular music performance, was in the SoCal Vocals, was music director, business manager, arranger, did the things that you're supposed to do in a college a cappella group. And then I think it's really funny because I think it's funny hearing everyone's a cappella, how it's in their lives. I feel like once I graduated, I was very much like, okay, a cappella, I'm done. It's cool. I have no interest. I had my time in it. It's fine. And then the bug just like kept on following me everywhere. I was like, bug, you can stay out the door. I don't like bugs. I want to squash you. I'm done. Over it. But then I think, pandemic happened. I graduated into the pandemic actually in 2020. So I think income, I was just like, please give me anything. I need anything right now. And I think it started off as just like making little videos for Instagram because all we had was time. So it was like TikTok, Instagram covers, just because I had nothing but time. And then I think slowly, everyone was doing the virtual cover, virtual box videos at the time. So people were like, can you arrange this for us? Can you arrange this for us? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so did little mini arrangements for people, some full group or full length arrangements for people. And then it's a very small community, so word gets around really, really quickly. And also this time I had started working at Acapella Academy as music director, so I had arranged for that as well. But yeah, then high school groups start reaching out and college groups start reaching out. I'm like, uh-oh, I guess it's still in my life.
I guess I'm an arranger now.
I guess I'm an arranger now. It was a complete accident. I did not do the outreach thing like I think many arrangers do, and like I tell arrangers to do, but I was like, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. But it followed me and I needed money. And then all of a sudden I was doing it full time. So not full time, but it is a big part of my life now. In terms of percentages, actually before percentages, rest of my life. Yes, acapella arranger, vocal arranger, background vocalist for a lot of film and TV things. Acapella is still a very big part of my life in terms of just time. Income, it is not a big part of my life really. But I would say the rest of my life is singing background vocals for artists and for film and TV. Teaching part-time, like I think Rob mentioned, I direct an acapella group, a high school acapella group called Wolf Acapella. I have been there for 6 years, which is 5 years longer than I thought it was going to be. And it's great. And I don't anticipate leaving anytime soon. Teach private voice at USC. And sometimes vocal production and recording and a little bit of everything here and there. But in terms of percentages, I would say Steph said in the chat, like, look at your spreadsheet. Me and her like went through my income last year and like made a whole spreadsheet, and I broke it down in percentages of how much I make from everything. So looking at my spreadsheet, usually acapella is honestly like 25 to 30% of my life. And that includes the arranging aspect, the demos and learning tracks, vocal production side of things, and the music direction stuff. So for Acapella Academy, teaching, directing, getting asked to do clinics and stuff. It is a very small part of my life.
Do you count Wolf Acapella in that?
Oh yes, that's
part of it. Yeah.
Surprisingly, yeah, Wolf Acapella is in that 30%, 35-ish% maybe, depending on the year. But and then the rest of life, about 50% of it probably is like the union film, TV stuff. That's usually doing like the choir film scores and a lot of just like residuals on. Most of my income the last couple of years has just been residuals from TV film, which is where it is at. If you can get that literally SAG residual income, it'll save lives sometimes. Like last year, SAG was on strike and I didn't make any money from SAG. All of my income was from residuals. That was the only reason I was able to stay afloat last year. But that's me. That's my life.
Cool. All right. So that's everybody. That's a little snapshot. So I guess, we're gonna move in just a little bit of an open conversation here, but I guess the theme of today is like, okay, I'm a young person, maybe not so young person. I want to make money doing a cappella. How? how do I do that, in this new climate? One of the questions, there's a few different ways we can talk about this. One of the questions I had sort of designed to get into that is sort of like, we talked a little bit about how everybody got started, but if you were to advise someone who wants to do what you're doing now to start now, what would you tell them to do? I think that might be an interesting place to start. For me, it would be panic. No, I'm kidding. But anybody that wants to jump in on that, Tehillah, go ahead.
Yeah, I could touch on this a bit. Like I said, my journey into acapella as a career was an accident. But if I were to advise, kind of what I even tell younger folks now coming from college acapella groups who still want to keep acapella in their lives somehow, I feel like the outreach is really important. We don't talk enough about just like actually reaching out to groups and offering those services. I think everyone after college, especially kind of in today's day and age of everything being digital and everyone needing to go viral and all of this stuff, we don't talk enough about like offering services and being okay with not making a ton of money right away from it. I think a lot of even really talented students who graduate, they jump right off the bat of like, my rate for an arrangement is $2,000 a chart. And I'm like, no one You've had 30 seconds of experience. No one wants to pay that right now. No one wants to pay that for the professionals.
Look, if you can find somebody, mazel, but
Right, yeah. But I think
I've always said if I can find one person to buy an arrangement for $1 million, I'm set.
Yes, correct. And I have not had that luck yet, but
me neither.
I think, but being okay with not just starting small, knowing that yes, you're probably worth more and you're going to be, but just knowing your experience and being able to match your income or match your rate and your budget to your experience. Even though one day you will be able to up those rates and you will be able to make more. But I think just being okay with starting small, reaching out to high school groups, middle school groups, doing stuff for free, even to at least get the exposure and get your name in people's mouths. So that, like I said earlier, so much of me having started was word of mouth. So yeah, that would be my advice.
I'm curious.
I think that's great.
Sorry, go ahead.
One quick thing on that specific point, because I'm right there with you, Tehillah, and I give that advice to people all the time. I also remind them face-to-face is so important in all businesses, and particularly this one. If you want to be an arranger, if you want to be a coach, if you want to be a director, start locally. Go back to your old middle school, your high school, your college, the different places you performed, the people you know, the directors you worked with. Ask them. And then also, if you do an arrangement, follow up by going to one of the rehearsals for free and coach them on it. You'll learn more than they will, because you're going to learn like, oh, wow, I really didn't put enough dynamics in, or like, I got to remember breath marks. And that young arranger who comes out of the gate and they're like, I'm an amazing arranger. Dude, you're an amazing arranger for that particular set of people who you spent like 6 hours a week in rehearsals with. You don't know how to arrange for a Latvian Sweet Adeline's quartet. You don't know how to arrange for a bunch of middle school kids in Australia. Like what's their vocal range? What are their assumptions? And this group is half classical choral music, so they come from this perspective, and these people know barbershop better. And this group is really a vocal jazz group or a show choir that's been repurposed. You have so much to learn that you don't know what you don't know. So when you do that stuff in person and you go to those rehearsals and you start to build up a body of work and a body of knowledge, having it be locally, and even if you're going to start a pro group, like Chrissy, you can speak about this. Like, you got to get the local gigs first. They're not just going to start flying you to New Zealand.
Totally. Yeah. To just go off of that a little bit, like the most of how we get our bookings is word of mouth. It is like connecting with people. It is doing outreach. And just like building up those connections over the years. And then, you do great work in a school, and then they tell other schools about how awesome you are. And it just like constantly, keep building. And the other thing I would say as far as advice is to like keep honing different skills and seeking out opportunities that help you grow in different ways, because, it's one thing to be a great singer, but there's so much else that goes into like being in a professional group. There's knowing about finances, there's knowing about live sound and arranging and, like choreographing and music directing. And there's just like so many things. And I think that's part of what, has been helpful in Backtrack, is that we all have very different skill sets that we like bring together, and it all makes the elements of the business kind of work. So just like having as many skills in your toolbox as you possibly can to put yourself in a really great position to keep making it happen.
And so, and also surrounding yourself with the people that have the skill sets that you don't. I think that's the other thing you're sort of speaking to there.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
And the subtext of what you're saying, an adage that I learned right out of college, going to a seminar from music business, is it's called the business of music. And you need to spend as much time on the business as you do the music, because you want to just
100%.
be creative. You want to just like make music and like make recordings and be all that. But you need to have your website in order. You need to have your spreadsheets built out. You need to do your follow-ups and all of that really boring stuff that is so essential to making any business happen.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, Melissa, who's, one of the owners of Backtrack, she was going to be an actuary and ended up, doing this. But that's what makes it so great, too, is that she knows so much about finances and the logistics of that whole thing. So she's able to do all of that side for us. And that's great, because I'm not good at that. So
she wanted to make more. She wanted to make more money, so she just got into acapella instead.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, Rob and I joke about this all the time, but acapella has been one of the more consistent industries of all the upheavals that have been happening.
It's nice work if you can get it.
Nice work if you can get it. But I think it does speak to like that it's fundamentally based on like humanity, right? It's fundamentally like people will always love to sing and will always love to hear others sing and do it well and see people have fun doing it. Like that will never change regardless of the medium in which it's done. So as a fan, thank you for your services.
Thank you for consuming the services. I had sort of a question actually that Tehillah inspired, and I think this can kind of go to anybody, but you know, one of the things that I found as an arranger was, you know, there are certain kind of milestones in your career where it's like, oh, you worked with this person or you like did this thing and it kind of opened up some doors. So I'm kind of wondering, maybe it might be interesting to talk about sort of what the milestones were in some of your careers and, you know, people that you worked with that kind of maybe brought things in an unexpected direction or, you know, wound you up in where you are now. For example, for me, it was the sing off, obviously, but then also working with One Voice in Memphis was a area of, you know, arranging for them. And then, you know, I was arranging for this really great high school group. And then all of these high school groups wanted to be like that group. And then they found me as a result. So I'm going to kick it. Angela, I would love to hear you, because I know you've worked with a lot of really high profile college groups in particular that have kind of defined your career in some ways. So what would you say have been sort of some of your defining career things?
I think what I was going to say is that that's part of what I would suggest is that go in and find people that you want to work with while you're building your portfolio as like a young person. If you're going into recording, like don't go into like, I just want to learn how to mix, like learn how to record these really great singers first, because that's the basis of what makes a good recording. I was blessed to, like at a very early point in my career, work with the Nor'easters as they were kind of like coming up into the acapella. Like this was before they, you know, won ICCA, and it was kind of while Shams was in school, and we kind of had this really great partnership back and forth. And as they grew, I grew as like a producer, and that was kind of like my first really big client. And I still work with them. I've worked with them for like 15 years. And like you said, like your experience with One Voice, like when people hear that I worked on that song, they write me. Like I don't do a lot of external outreach in the way that a lot of people might do, because it's all through word of mouth. It's like, oh, I heard this mix and I really like it. Or I saw that she worked with Pitch Slapped, I really like that. Or, you know, so it's all about kind of like connecting yourself to people who are making an impact. In a way that is like genuine, not in a way like, you're not, I don't know.
Make friends, don't network.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want it to be like, you're the creeper who's like, always like, hey, can I work on your stuff? Hey,
can I mix your album?
Yeah. You have to show them that you know what you're talking about. You need to like get really good at the skills that you're honing. But yeah, it's all about like, and it's all about keeping those relationships really, like throughout your career. Because you'll always have like random new clients come in, but if you can keep like a core group of like clients that come back every single year, then you have a lifetime career.
Yep.
Off of that, I just want to say, because this like piece of advice sort of blew my mind. I was talking to a career counselor recently, actually, and we were talking about the subject of like, well, when you're wanting to advance your career and you're wanting to, you know, make that clear, like, can you just talk about it, you know, sort of openly? And she was sort of like, or like within the individual conversations that you're having with, you know, whoever this person is you want to work for or with. And I was like, yes, you should be like very, very vocal and transparent and straightforward of like what you want and how, in the hopes that like, and how you might get it or whatever. And she was sort of like, yes, but also like, the person probably knows that already, right? If you're talking to somebody who's been in the industry for a long time, somebody who you look up to, somebody who's more established, and you're trying to get your feet wet, like they know that you want to get your feet wet. They know that in like your perfect world, you would do this arrangement or you would do this recording or whatever. And asking them at the end of it almost like makes it feel more transactional, in less, and like with more of an agenda and like less of a friendship. And just going off of Angela, what you just said so beautifully, which is just like, be friends with people, and show them that you're good at this thing, rather than asking them if you can do, like, they know that you want to, right? And obviously every case is different, but generally speaking, the more that people want to be friends with you and like you and hang out with you, the more like organic opportunities are going to come.
I think also too,
sure.
Actually, Ben Bram crystallized this for me really, really well once. He was talking about like people that approach him and say like, oh, like I would love your feedback on this, or I'd love to work with, like they would say like, I'd love to work with you, right? And he was like, you know, it's always so much more effective when somebody comes in and says, I would like to do this thing with you, or I'd like to do this project, or I have a project that I would love to work on with you. So, you know, something that's like more direct, where it's less like, hey, I would love to work together someday, and more like, hey, I have this thing that really fits your skill set. Would you be interested in working on this thing with me? And I found that too. I think it's much more effective to approach people with specifics and offering something rather than looking for something. I think that's a really good way to think about it. Layne, same question to you about, you know, defining career moments. You know, what would have been sort of the flags in the road for you, or things have turned?
I think one of them that really sticks out to me is that when I was first when I was in high school, I was like bit by the bug. And
there's that bug again.
At that point in time, Rockapella was the group that was on top. And I was like, this is an awesome group. I listen to them all the time. Like they're my idols at this point in time. How do I do that? And so, you know, we started Four to Five back in the day, which was the name of the group. And we practiced every day. We got together and we were like, how do we do this? And at one point in time, I was like, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to contact their beatboxer, Jeff Thatcher. I'm going to be like, can you mix our album? Even though I don't even know if he was the mix engineer on their albums. I was like, I'm going to contact him. So he's like, yeah, I can do that for you. I'll fly in, I'll record you guys. And at that point in time, I was like, great, I can actually see this in person, see how it's done, and figure out my next steps to like how I can do this on my own next time. So like, thank you, Jeff Thatcher, for teaching me these new skills. Now I'm going to learn this myself. And then I think maybe 10 years later, there was a big moment in my life that was like, can you mix the Rockapella album? And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah. So I think that was a really fun full circle for me to be able to mix their album after being such a big fan of theirs for such a long time.
That's so cool. Yeah, sometimes it just comes back around in really unexpected ways.
Absolutely. It's important to put yourself out there and don't wait for something to happen. You gotta make things happen, and try things on your own and try to figure out as much as you can on your own. And obviously, you know, you can get lucky sometimes and ask a Jeff Thatcher for some help, or ask some of these great people in this chat for help, ask Deke for help. But sometimes people are really busy and you might have to do a lot of the work yourself.
Yeah. I think my observation is that professionals always really respect people who get it done. You know, I think like if you're looking for somebody to work with, or you're looking for somebody that, you know, you want to mentor or whatever it is, like it's you always kind of gravitate towards the people that get it done. You know, whether that's working with like, you know, editors for you, Ange, maybe like, or, you know, anything you want to outsource, or like, you know, Tehillah, when you are like outsourcing when you don't have time to do arrangements or whatever, it's like you want the people you can trust, you know? So it's like making yourself trustworthy. Off of that, question
1,000%. One more thought on that whole thing, just because everybody's talking about these like high end, you know, like I got this like great group and like I did 14-part arrangements for them and all that kind of stuff. I just want to remind everybody that the market is largely a giant pyramid, and these fantastic groups at the top are absolutely so creative, like wonderful. And I saw like you did a Swingles arrangement, Robin. This is like fantastic and whatever. But you know who really needs arrangements out there? New high school groups that need 4-part arrangements. You know, what's the most popular restaurant in the world? It's McDonald's. And I'm not saying that you want to be the McDonald's of arranging, but people eat a good burger far more often than they eat filet mignon, and everybody needs to eat. And also, and this is no disrespect to the fantastic people who are coming out of college, like doing great 10, 12-part arrangements, but you know what's harder to arrange than a 10 or 12-part arrangement? A 3-part arrangement. if you can make a great 3-part arrangement for a middle school group that doesn't span much more than an octave, hits their ranges, and it's all like repeating rhythms that they can sing and learn and hang on to, and yet it still sounds full. If you can do that, you are the wizard behind the curtain, and you will be working here, there, and everywhere. So I just wanted to say this because I want people to remember that that part of the market is massively underserved, and so many people on Arrange Me are throwing up these, great arrangements they did for their college groups. But the bottom of the pyramid, there's plenty of room at the salad bar down there, and very few people I see who are actually actively serving that part of the market.
I'm trying to be like the Five Guys of acapella. Actually, I feel like that's sort of where that's where
free peanuts. I'm trying to get
free peanuts.
100%.
Don't work with me if you have a peanut allergy.
But I just like to use the Acapella Academy is this incredible training ground for some of the best young singers, and Tehillah went there, and Rob, you're changing lives up there, which is super great. But then also, like, I've got Camp Acapella going, and Charlie's on this call. Camp Acapella has no auditions. Anybody can go. We've got middle school, high school, college. We've got music educators. It's like, come one, come all. Like, so just remember, like, the size of the market is complete and total. And Warren Buffett, probably considered the greatest, investor of the past 100 years. He's always like, when people are zigging, zag. So just want to remind everybody that all of that is out there as well.
Didn't have Warren Buffett on my bingo card for this
yeah, Bugs and Warren Buffett. Dude, here we go. Keep them coming. We got
Warren Buffett famously eats bugs for breakfast.
You heard it here first.
Protein.
We're actually running low on time, believe it or not. Time flies when you have an amazing panel. I'm going to turn to this question, then we'll leave a little bit of time at the end for any questions from anybody in the chat. Anybody who's here in the chat, Charlie, Max, Cindy, if you want to drop questions in the chat, we can ask the panel in a second. But I think it would be very interesting just to go around quickly, maybe a minute per person. What do you feel sets you apart as an a cappella professional? What's your special sauce? If you had to distill it into a simple thought, what is it that about you that has allowed you to to thrive as a professional, that that just kind of makes you, why people hire you? I think that could be really instructive for people. So Chrissy, you're the closest to me on my chat board, on my Zoom board. So let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah. I think for me, it's just being versatile. I trained to sing in a variety of different genres. I went to school, did a lot of like opera, classical music, was in VoicePlay at the same time, singing a lot of like pop contemporary music. I auditioned in the Broadway scene for many, many years. I thought that's what I was going to end up doing. And again, like Tehillah said before, like a cappella just came in and was like, nope, you should be doing this. So yeah, I think, being able to be versatile vocally, but also with other skill sets. Like I've danced my whole life, so that's a skill set that I can offer as well. I learned how to be a beatboxer in college just from like my friends in the group, just like teaching me at I just thought it was cool, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm gonna learn from my friends. And it just sort of happened naturally, where all these skills kind of developed, and now I feel like I have a lot of things to pull from, and I can kind of go into different spaces and adapt with what they need, and that's I think what helps me in this industry.
Love that. Angela, same question.
I think other than like consistently being able to put something out in a timely manner, which is I think the most important part of like the production process, I think that something that sets me apart is that my main goal is to kind of like find the heart of each song and each piece of music and really deliver that. Like I went to school for psychology, like I thought I was going to be a therapist, but I realized that music is what helped me through my life. And that's my goal for every song that I produce with people, is to like have them have that experience of like what music means to them, and like to bring that consistently across like as many songs as I possibly can to get that like full journey of like the human experience.
I love that. Layne?
Sure. I feel like that my special skill set, maybe I learned a little bit from Deke here, but being able to take a project from absolutely nothing and turn it into something. You know what I mean? Like not just necessarily a song, but like an idea, or whether it's small or big, take something from zero and then every little piece of it, you know, you take care of, whether you're having somebody help you or other people help you or not, but you are in charge of making sure that idea is great and that people are really going to love it. So I think that's really something I appreciate about you, Deke.
Thank you.
You're an idea shepherd.
That's right. Yeah.
Tehillah?
Excuse me. I think honestly, like a combination of what like everyone said. I feel like Angela, I resonate so much with like getting to the heart of the music and focusing more on the person and how they feel doing it versus what are the cool things I can do. But I feel good when they feel good, you know? Same with like Chrissy, having versatility and just the overall skill set and the things that I'm able to do, and knowing when I can't do something and being able to recommend someone who is much more knowledgeable in something than me. But I think maybe while people seek me out for, at least in the arranging front, is I think the sound that I've learned that I've created for myself is because I didn't really have a strong foothold in acapella growing up. I think I'm so inspired by so many different genres of music and by just background vocal arranging and string arranging and instrumental arranging. And I feel like even my training at USC was not really as a vocalist first. So I think the kind of sound that I've curated for myself has been being able to take all these influences from different genres of music and instrumental arranging and just what feels really good and put it into songs somehow. And I feel like people resonate with that really well. But more than anything, I think I feel like I'm knowledgeable at knowing what a group's strengths are and what their weaknesses are and being able to highlight them by, even if maybe there's an idea that I would love that I can't write because I know they can't do it very well, just knowing that, knowing what a group's strengths are and being able to highlight those strengths through song.
Love that. Just want to give another opportunity if anybody wants to drop questions in the chat for anybody on the panel. We'll do that. While we're waiting, Stephanie texted me a question that I think is really interesting. You know, in this day and age, with social media, you know, we see the highlights, right? We see all the successes and all the things that goes right. You know, what's the hardest part of your day that nobody gets to see? You know, what's the hardest part of what you do that's just like, you know, it doesn't make the Instagram reel because it's just like part of doing the work, but like what's like the day-to-day challenge that's tough? Anybody want to take that?
Starting anything ever. I feel like half of these projects that I know I have to do is just sitting in front of my computer and just waiting for inspiration to strike, but it's usually just there and maybe plunking out a note or two in Sibelius until something kind of sounds good. And then it's like, oh, okay. And then we get into the grind. But even getting to that point, it's just, I feel like I personally have a really bad habit of procrastination. And the second I sit down, it's like, I've been meaning to cook. I've been meaning to do my laundry. Like I find anything else to do. And getting started for me is like the hardest thing in the planet.
I don't know about you. What I find so frustrating about that too is almost every time once I actually start doing the thing, I'm like, oh, this is way easier than I thought. Like this is just going very, very quickly. But it's literally
10 times out of 10.
It's just the process of like going to the computer, opening the thing, and just starting the thing. It can be, that's so tough. Yeah. Anybody else? What's the hardest thing about your life? Work-wise.
I was going to suggest that maybe it's sometimes the middle where you're like, you've got like some momentum going and all of a sudden it stops because you're like, wait a minute, this isn't what it needs to be. This needs to be better. Or like, was this idea any good to begin with? Like those moments of doubt or the moments where you're like, this can be better. I don't really know what that is. I need some inspiration from something else. So I think like those can slow you down. But to me, like I always tell other people, like it's just part of the process. Like it's never smooth sailing the whole way.
Yeah. How do you sort of circumnavigate that sometimes?
I think what I like to do is like go check out art in other ways, whether it's a television show or maybe it's another artist or it's not something a cappella or I don't know, like go out and see the world.
Look in a different direction.
Any other kind of inspiration can really help your brain, like trick your brain to go, oh, I do have an idea.
Love that. Chrissy, Angela?
I actually had
Tehillah, sorry. Tehillah first.
No, just on that note too, I had an old songwriting teacher kind of who spoke on that a while ago who used to just say, even if you're in that process where you're halfway through and you're like, oh, this sucks. You finish the bad idea, you let out the bad idea, get it all out, and then you can go back and edit. I think the stopping and editing midway through before you can actually flesh out what the full thing is stops you from actually being able to see the bigger picture. So even if it's a really crappy bigger picture and it's just like a big old splash of mud on a canvas, at least then you'll have everything and be able to carve from there, or pull some inspiration from something else that might have been a bad idea but there are some gems in. So just finishing the bad idea.
You have to turn your editor off. If your editor is engaged too early in a creative process, it will stifle that creative flow, and you don't know what wonderful things will come out. So I underline that 3 times.
Yeah. Chrissy, Angela?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to say, sometimes like consistency is tricky. Like, 1 week I'll have 2 gigs and then the next week I'll have nothing. And just like financially, but also just like routine wise, keeping consistency throughout my weeks is something that's difficult sometimes. But I also like it at the same time. It's a weird thing, but I think that is professionally what I struggle with the most at this point in my life. Is just trying to keep that consistency.
Ange?
Yeah. I was going to say that like being aware of like the emotional state that you're in that day is super important for the tasks that you might need to do in that week. Like some days I'm like, oh, I really need to mix this song today. And then I sit down to do it and I'm just like not in the right headspace to do mixing, but I need to work. So it's like, okay, if I would just like, I might mix this song poorly if I sit here for 4 hours and do this. Instead, why don't I edit this other song that I have to do later this week, because it's a totally different part of my brain that I need to use. And like maybe like sad Angela can edit, but she can't like mix that song today. So like just like kind of be aware of like not every day you're not going to be creatively like motivated every day, but like if you want to do this every day for your job, you have to find like the ups and downs and like the different ways that you can attack different projects. Or maybe it's like, okay, I just need to like email everybody I didn't email over the last week today, and that's like my job today. And it's just kind of like figuring out like what you need to do to continue moving forward a little bit on every project that you've got.
That's so real. Yeah. One of the biggest things for me in terms of like expanding my productivity was like learning what parts of the day I do better. I do certain things the best, you know what I mean? And scheduling myself so that I'm like optimizing my day. Yeah, it really is. It's what they don't teach you that in college. They don't teach you that. They don't teach you that in school. They teach you how to do stuff, but they don't teach you how to like look within and find that motivation. We're just about out of time. Does anybody have any final thoughts on anything that you'd like to share? Any tips and tricks? I don't think we have any questions in the chat. So just any thoughts from the panel that we want to close out with?
Acapella's cool. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Says the woman who was pulled back in like Al Pacino in Godfather 3.
Says the least acapella person I know. Yes.
Acapella's cool. Other people should do it.
Yeah. I should actually mention that this sounds like a hopeless plug, and I don't mean it that way, but there's this book that I wrote called So You Want to Sing a Cappella, and it's big. It's a meaty book with hundreds of pages. There's over 100 pages in the book about like 30 different careers that are all within a cappella or very closely ancillary within a cappella. If you don't have the book or you don't want to get the book, get your library to get the book or whatever, borrow it from a friend. But lots of interviews also with people, including Layne. There's a whole section in there on his video work or whatever, just to help you have those pieces, those tools to be able to have enough legs to walk on so you can be a Warren Buffett bug.
I don't think that's what those are called.
Eaten by Warren. And if you have any questions, you listen to this and you're like, hey, I wish I had been able to listen to it live during the recording and have a question that wasn't answered, feel free to drop us a line. Hey, Rob, where can a curious Corey do that?
I think probably you can DM us at Counterpoint. CounterPT Pod is our Instagram. You can also email Deke and I directly. I think that's probably the easiest thing to do at this point.
Deke's phone number is?
Yeah, Deke's phone number is. Let me pull that.
I changed it, Layne. Good luck.
Ooh.
That's why you're not responding.
Ominous.
Oh, that's why you haven't answered my phone calls in the last 3 years. But yeah, I think, feel free to reach out. And, the hope with all this is, that, you start, that this is obviously like just a little bit of a nugget of wisdom that will hopefully, give some direction and some inspiration. Obviously, I'm sure we could probably talk for 3 hours about this, especially with this panel. Thank you guys so much for being here. This has been a wonderful conversation. Chrissy, Angela, Layne, Tehillah, we really appreciate you. We'll be back next month, I think is the plan. We're going to try to do these conversations just about monthly. So thank you to the people who were here to witness this live. Thank you for your energy. And we hope to see some more people at future live tapings down the road. So we'll keep you posted on that and future topics. But a Zoom hand for our very first panel. Thank you guys for being here.
Well done, everybody.
Thank you so much.
And
Thanks for having us.
we are very public-minded and very community-focused. So if you do have ideas for upcoming episodes, different topics you want us to tackle, whatever, drop us a line. Like Rob said, like we are here for you. That's what we're trying to do.
Right.
Make things better and easier. And every single person out there who's struggling or about to graduate and you want to make a career of acapella, you can absolutely do it. And every single person who's a part of this panel, and also people throughout the acapella community, are so warm and embracing and uplifting. We will lift you up and help you become one of us. One of us.
You've
one
raised
of
me
us.
I'll say a special next guest, Josh Groban.
Yes, there we go.
All right.
He's gonna eat bugs. Can't wait.
This episode brought to you by Bugs. Bugs. Don't eat them.
The letter B, Bugs and Buffett.
Unless you're Warren Buffett.
There you go. Bugs and
Bye,
Warren Buffett.
kids.
Thanks, y'all. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
And we're out.